Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Williams. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Williams. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Right. I'm Egberto Williams, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. I want you to stay with me. We have a whole lot to discuss. We need to talk a whole lot about how we are going to win 2020. Yesterday, I had a conversation with a resident, a citizen of Venezuela. And after that conversation, I realized, you know what? There are certain things that we have to reiterate with the progressive base, and we're definitely going to have to do that, because if this foreigner, this guy from somewhere else saw what we've been talking about for quite some time, but does need some resolution, it just go to show that we need to make sure and get our narrative right, folks. But before we get started with the program, I have Daniel Cohen on the line. And I want you to stick with me. Those of you that are not local to the Houston area, the narrative that we're going to talk about this particular local election is imperative that you hear as well for whatever district, whatever state, whatever city you are in, because all of this applies. We have work to do. And it doesn't only happen on the national level. It doesn't only happen on the state level. It also happens on the city level, county level, school district level. But anyhow, without further ado, Daniel Cohen, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Good afternoon to you, and happy Friday, Egberto.
Happy Friday to you. Daniel, one of the reasons I called you up and asked you to come on is I know we have a pretty important school board election in I believe, in Pearland. And you want to, first of all, give a call on folks to get engaged with this election like any other election. So give us your 10-point thing why people need to be engaged in these particular elections. And if you're just joining us, folks, please, in as much as Daniel is going to be talking about a local election, take the knowledge. This applies to where you are at as well. Take the floor, Daniel.
Sure. I mean, so local elections are really important. Hyper-local makes a big difference. You may have national issues that are recurrent, but you're always going to have local issues and local perspectives on those issues as well. And there are some wonderful candidates at elections in the area that are going until May. So a lot of these campaigns are in an electoral foot race about what's going on. And this is an opportunity to make a difference in that foot race, which I think is good for democracy as a whole. I'm excited about Pearland first and foremost because I think that the organizers and activists who have stepped up in that area have done wonderful work, not just the candidates, but the others who are in the area who are trying to take action, raise awareness of issues, and talk about issues that are both everyday and issues that are specific to the area. Issues such as too much screen time in the schools, as well as issues such as a high suicide rate, which is not specific to Pearland, but is certainly relevant to Pearland. Issues such as the Shiloh Detention Center, which everyone from Mike Floyd to Pete Olson has called for the closure of because of how terrible the treatment is there. And that's, at a national level, that's the same old issue of baby jails and inhumane immigration policies, but it's actually in the backyard in Pearland. And the school district has contracts that need to be discussed related to stuff like that. So it's a real opportunity to make a big difference, and people can go and canvass and get engaged, and they can actually move the needle in that election.
Now, you wrote a piece that we reblogged here, an excellent piece with 10 points talking about why people needed to engage in this particular election. But what I noticed when I read it is this, Daniel, doesn't apply to Pearland, Texas only. This applies across the entire country. So let us have it in that context.
Sure. Well, there's a big, really at the end of the day, a lot of people, as you've said in the past, agree on what they want. It's just how to get there is where they actually disagree. And the idea of us having a real discussion about values in local communities is something that's worth going into. And so I just wanted to bring that up. It's like, you've got this chance. You've got a chance to actually make a difference. You can make a real difference on policy. You've got these people who have been doing everything, putting their heart into their communities, helping different community members, people who have really helped out kids in the past, people who have really helped out the immigrant community in the past, and people who have really helped everyone that they can in Houston and in Pearland and in surrounding areas. And we always talk about how we want somebody good to step up and run, and that we don't like, all of the candidates that we have for all the various offices. If I could tell you the number of people who have asked me if I know of somebody else who's going to jump into the Houston mayor's race right now, I've lost track at this point. So here you have these amazing candidates, these grassroots leaders that are willing to come forward and do something. A doctor, an assistant principal, somebody who works in tech and has a mind for organizing things, and all of whom have a real heart for kids. So you got some parents in the mix, but you also have, other people with educational experience in the mix. I mean, this is a kind of election that progressives should be getting engaged in, because we want to see better leaders. So let's go help them help make sure they get elected.
Absolutely so. So give us another rundown. I think you had some interesting points. I don't know if you have the article that you wrote up with you or not on your phone or whatever. But I mean, you spoke about. Well, go ahead. You continue.
Well, I could talk about some of what I said in there. There's something that hasn't really been, to go through all 10 points. I think
no, you don't have to do that. But yeah, exactly.
But let me give you a few things. Okay, this is really important timing. For Houstonians and for Pearland residents and people in surrounding areas, because Houston elections aren't till November. We're still fighting over the ledge right now. People are trying to get the things that they care about passed, and so there's still that kind of thing going on in the political cycle. But we don't really have canvassing going on except for these local elections, both in Pearland and in Pasadena, and also in Spring Branch, right? There's all these different areas where these different elections going on. So you've got 6 weeks to go out there and knock doors. So you can make a very significant difference in that time. I've said it before, I'll say it again on your show and in other rooms as well. Ground game makes 5% difference when it's firing on all cylinders measurably, and then there's an immeasurable amount of votes that it picks up as well beyond that. And some of these races are decided by very few votes. So, this is an opportunity to move the needle. These are the wins that we really need to make sure that there's good leaders who are getting a bit of a track record and an opportunity to implement great policy vision at a local level. It energizes people for 2020. That's definitely the case. And these are candidates that are worth standing up for and going out there and knocking on doors and engaging people over, that have really interesting ideas. And if you have a conversation with them, that you get to learn about ways that they can bring real improvement to the school system. And I think that this is just an irreplaceable chance at really direct democracy that can make a big difference. And the votes are there in a lot of these places, because a lot of the voters, right, who stepped up in the 2018, there were a ton of new voters. And they see the power of some of these new ideas, and they see why some of the old systems aren't working. They see that in schools, the accountability system is sort of this managerial-minded accountability system. That institution is going to fall apart, and we need to make sure that there's new ideas that replace it. We need to be coming up with that now and pushing forward for that now. So especially in school board elections, these local candidates are the ones that are in charge of implementing those policy visions, and it's really important. It's really important to say, this is not just a new policy vision. It's not a matter of pass-fail for the old metrics in our school systems and in other parts of our society. It's that we were measuring the wrong thing, and here's how we should be thinking about the world, and here's how we can give people an opportunity and give people a life of dignity. That's what local progressive candidates can do.
Absolutely. So now, do you know, for those people that are listening local, can you tell me a little bit about some of the people that are running that you know specifically?
Sure. I sing the praises of Donna and Joe, and Donna and Joe have both fought in the past on a wide variety of issues, and they put their feet where their mouth is, right? They go into the streets and they comment on things. They've attended meetings, seminars, forums, actions, you name it. They've been there on healthcare, immigration, everything, right? Any kind of justice issue you can think of, whether it's a pocketbook or if it's matter of any of the at-large national policies that we've seen over the last few years, they weigh in on them. And they're very clear about where they stand on things, and they're honest about it too. And if you don't know Joe, if you don't know Donna, you can see some of the work that they've done with PSR, and you can look into their campaign pages on Facebook and things like that and get to learn more about them. They're very, very accessible, and you can learn more about kind of what they stand for specifically. I can tell you that I know that they're in favor of decreasing high-stakes standardized testing. I know that they're in favor of less screen time and more of other kinds of learning time. I know that they're in favor of bringing down the suicide rate in Pearland, which has been historically high. And I also know that they stand up very, very strongly on some of the same issues that Mike Floyd did. People paint these communities with a broad brush, and I don't think that that's fair, because we all know that Mike Floyd ran on civil rights issues when he ran in Pearland, and he ran because we know that there was a student who was essentially being picked on by the superintendent through a really kind of like pseudo-philosophical lens, but that's essentially what was happening. And Mike's trustee wouldn't stand up for the kid, and so Mike ran on civil rights issues and won. So, I think that there's an opportunity to really show people a better way of conducting our day-to-day life, and particularly in our schools, where bullying is such a big problem right now. But I'd say focus on those things, because that's what the candidates are running on, and that's their case in Pearland right now. Of course, they're focused on other things too, making sure kids are going to college and that they have the skills that they need, and that we take a smart approach to accountability. But those are these are the sort of kitchen table issues that can translate to the local level when you're a progressive candidate.
Absolutely. So, okay, Don, let's go ahead and go national. Daniel, this is a quick fire now. Thoughts on the Mueller report and the just new released information that, yes, it turns out that the report will be turned over to Congress. So says Barr, but not the whole report.
Well, they have to release the entire report, or they're not being transparent and accountable, obviously. I mean, that's the interesting thing is that, there's discussions on the left about whether or not this should be an issue or not, or what's really the point behind all this. Look, if you have a system set up the way that we have it set up, I'm in favor of the most transparency and accountability possible. I think the documents should be released. I see no reason why the Attorney General should be sitting on any of this. And obviously, if you try to shroud something in secrecy, then you cast doubt on it immediately, particularly if there was justification for the investigation to begin with, which there was legally, and there were clues that have been investigated, which is the entire point of the investigation. One of the biggest lies peddled by the right is the idea that there was no evidence or no base or anything like that. We had basis from the beginning. We had evidence from the beginning. There's been a long paper trail of people who are directly tied to the White House, who have a long, proven, documented history of crookedness that is relevant to the campaign, but is also relevant to other financial dealings that are going on at that level. There's a great kleptocracy in the White House right now. So yeah, release the whole report. If it is not released, you'll see people in the streets, and we are going to continue our ongoing conversation about not only how we overcome the barriers that have been historically inequitable related to social justice issues, but also the guardrails of democracy themselves. And that's going to happen. So if that's the way that this goes down, I mean, that's what you're going to see. You'll see mass people in the streets next week.
Well, that would be excellent. Now, the one important thing that I want to remind folks is that we have to the reason the report was released this way is to give the semblance of, okay, they overreach. Okay, they didn't find anything on Donald Trump, and what does that really? What the expectation is that makes his reelection easier. Now, while those progressives like Daniel and others really know the facts, the masses don't necessarily do. So we have to be on our cues and make sure to go out there and inform folks, just as Dan and others are doing so right now. Don, give me a closer before we move on to the next subject.
Yeah, just keep it up. You keep doing what you do. The free and independent media is essential to everything that's going on right now. If you're listening right now, I can tell you can visit indivisiblehouston.org if you want to talk to us a little bit. But in addition to that, support shows like Egberto's show. I mean, even if I know that you have all kinds of different listeners, Egberto, whether you agree with me or you agree with him or whatever it is, if you don't have people out there who are not on the take of anybody, putting out news, putting out fresh content, stirring conversation, stirring the pot, creating expansion of freedom of speech and assembly and discussion and things like that, then all you have is either the local news, which is hyper-focused on the same stuff over and over and over again, or you have the cable news, which is just talking heads all day long. This is real conversation. There may be some of those elements of like punditry going on, but the flat fact is that there is no driving economic factor behind that punditry other than Egberto trying to get really good news out there with transparency to people like you and me. So if you have an opportunity to support Egberto Willie's show, I cannot stress enough that I think the work that you do is so good, and I think people should really consider putting a few bucks a month on you to help support and keep this going. It's so important, man, and I appreciate it.
And that was unsolicited, but appreciated. Thank you so kindly, Daniel. Daniel is the president of Indivisible Houston, and there is no harder working activists in Houston. We talk quite often. We get the lead from Daniel all of the times because you know what? When you have a young person as dedicated as he is to the movement, we have to make sure and get it done. Daniel, thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right.
Thank you, Egberto. Keep it up, man. Talk to you soon.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one. Hey, folks, let me tell you what's coming next because I know what I said I'm talking about. We're going to talk about all the issues with regards to how are we going to really win in 2020. But I want to touch on something here real quickly. Since Daniel already gave me the plug, let me plug myself real quick before I get into that other subject. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. To support the show. It's supported by a coffee a month or something like that. Please also, if you can't write that down, just go to politicsdoneright.com and click on donate or click on the different buttons we have there. But please do support independent media. Okay, enough of that. I'll tell you about all the books that you get and all that kind of stuff later on. But this has really gotten to me, and I would love somebody to call in and tell me about your thoughts. Notice what's behind me. I just, because I've been reading over the last 2 days about the DTripleC and what's been going on as far as what they're going to do for primaries and all that sort of stuff, I went on the internet and found this theme. I don't know who the person is. I'll give you credit, TJDS. That's the corner of the thing there that says that is your drawing or your improvement on the DTripleC's logos. But here's the deal. How can the DTripleC hold people who may have better ideas and want to challenge others? How can they hold them hostage to the situation? I want to read something real quickly from Common Dreams. And Common Dreams is yet another independent news source out there. And I just as Daniel did a support call for Politics Done Right on EgbertoWillies.com, I want to do the same for the Common Dreams and the DailyCoast.com and all these other progressive independent rags that are really trying to inform our people away from what you hear on TV, which is very much canned stuff. But I got this stuff in my mailbox. That said, it came from Common Dreams. The title was Progressive Caucus Rips DTripleC Attack on Primary Challengers as Slap in the Face of Democratic Voters. And it's so true. The subtitle of that was, if this policy remains in place, it will mean that we will not allow new Ayanna Presleys or AOCs to emerge. And we know what those two have meant, including Rashida, what's her name? Tlaib, and including Ilmar Omar. These women, these young women, young activists, women that owe their success, owe their winning, owe their success, their electoral success to nobody but the people. In other words, they're not owed to corps, they're not owed to anybody else. They did it, and the American people chose them. Do we really want to stifle others that way? Do we really want to have the DTripleC come into every election and say, nah, we don't want you running, we don't think you can win? Whoever thought Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would win? Whoever thought Ayanna Pressley would win? Whoever thought Rashida Tlaib would win? Whoever thought Ilmar Omar would win. And then to present a voice. If anyone saw these women in their congressional hearings, how they asked these plutocrats questions that many have not asked them ever. Why? Because it's a friendly cabal normally in there with all the people that slap backs and all of that. Well, we brought in great women, and it's not only those four. There are many others that came in because they decided to challenge. Hell, I am working with a whole lot of folks right now in Divisible. I would like to see put up a challenge to some of our folks right here in Texas. Right? Because we know they are going to go up there and they're not going to just raise hell for the sake of raising hell. They're going to go out there to change the conversation and change the policies. When it was time for Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in as much as she is a woman out on a mission, when it was time to be pragmatic to get things done, she did it. They would tell you that these women work very hard. They are in all their different committee meetings. They are doing all the things that they're supposed to do, while the old timers are calling corporations to raise money to stay alive because they don't really have the popular support one would expect them to have. But we have a group of real grassroots women and men, but lately I've been concentrating mostly on women because it is great to see how the leaders that have emerged right now, a lot of women have emerged as leaders and making a difference. Why? Why will we allow the DTripleC to here's what they said. Leaders of the Congressional Progressive Caucus Wednesday condemned the DTripleC's new policy of cutting funds to primary challengers. And here's what the DTripleC said, and let me see if I can get to there. They said, progressives made clear they have no intention of backing down to the party establishment after the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee on Friday threatened to cut off funds to firms and strategists that support primary challengers against incumbents. This is the DTripleC, folks. And here's the DTripleC can do anything it wants to try to prevent the next generation of Democrats from taking power. They will not succeed. Sean McElwee, co-founder of Data for Progress, which is recruiting progressives to oust conservative Democrats, said in a statement. The new policy was included in the DTripleC list of vendors hiring standards, which state that the organization will not conduct business with nor recommend to any of its target campaigns any consultant that works with an opponent of a sitting member of the House Democratic Caucus. I watch MSNBC all the time. If they mention this, they must have done it in passing. But this is a very anti-democratic move that all of you should be cognizant of and that all of you should be doing something about. Their telephone lines need to be ringing. And not only that, I have a friend in Georgia who always talks about withhold the vote. In other words, she believes I don't share that particular belief with the vote, but I do share it with the money. Those who are asking us for money to serve, those of us who ask you for money to serve, owe you democracy. We cannot be a progressive organization. We cannot be a progressive media. We cannot be progressive any of these things if we don't live by the tenets that we promote. So folks, if that memo stays, if they remain with that statement of coercing not having new candidates to primary those who are not living up to the standard of progressivism, withhold not your vote, withhold the money. And by the way, I stole that phrase from Tamara Shealy from Tamara for Georgia. Check her out at Tamara for Georgia. She's working on a progressive show as well. And I like I told, yesterday I had Obedike Kamau, who's also working himself on a progressive show of this nature. And what I've been telling all folks that are enter in this domain is we need more. We need more. We need two things. We need a whole lot more of these shows, and we need a whole lot more people supporting these shows. Look at what our standard bearers, the DTripleCs, and all these people that just take our monies and then pay them to the big shots. They pay them to the big consultant agencies, $100,000 salaries. While we have the people who have reach like ourselves, I'm coming to you phones in a minute. We have people with reach, folks, that are struggling just to survive. Folks, withhold the money until they serve you. I come to you and I ask you for contributions to keep politics done right. I serve you. Let's go first of all to line number, let's go to, I think, 314, and then I'll come to 209. 314, you're on the air. Come on in.
Hello, how you doing?
Oh, how you doing, my friend? Talk to me.
No, I was listening to what you were talking about to progressives.
Yes.
A progressive agenda. And I've been listening to some of these progressive agendas, and they would be very detrimental to the fabric of the country.
Specify.
So I would be totally against them.
Specify.
Oh, just doing away like you have AOC wants to do away with all carbon fuel.
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise.
Right.
That is totally ridiculous.
Okay, let's stop for a second there. That is not. I know that's the first one. So let me answer the first one. That is not a true statement. That is how they would like to promote the statement. But so let me just tell you that is not a true statement. That is the rhetoric behind the statement. So what's the second one?
So what is the true statement?
The true statement is that we do want to reduce carbon emissions in this country because we have detriment, the carbon in the air, methane in the air. All these things change the temperature at a much faster rate than would have occurred naturally. And as such, it is cheaper to start reducing our carbon use. It's cheaper to start developing jobs that are going to give you power from renewable resources than the destruction that will become and have already started coming from climate change that we have. What I have to do, and you have to do, and those of us who understand science have to do. And I know who you are, my dear friend. I always forget your name until, but whatever the case is. The fact of the matter is you're a science person as well. Therefore, you should know that we can start making changes that will mitigate what is occurring right now, and we must do that. So it is not a foolish thing to do. It is a thing that we must do. Go ahead, my friend.
Well, there had been attempts to make changes for the last 30 years or so.
Right.
With carbon emissions that's being produced in automobiles.
Yes.
You have safety emissions, safety standards also.
Yes.
But the carbon emissions that's coming from automobile is at some of the lowest points, to the point where they're doing away with stations. They say, well, it looks good. So I
don't follow what you're saying.
So
I'm sorry. I didn't understand what you said. Explain what you mean.
Well, when you get ready to renew your license plates on your car.
Yes, sir.
You have to have a carbon emission. You have to have an emission test.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have less cars that fail an emission test today than any time in the history of these tests. I remember when these tests was only $2. They're about $32 or $42 now.
Okay, well, you know what you can blame a whole lot of that on is capitalism, okay? So, I mean, I know you don't, as a big-time capitalist, I know you don't like to hear that, but you can blame a lot of those costs on capitalism. If we followed the type of policies that I like, that service to check your car would be free. But you know what? We don't want to do that because guess what? The companies who make those devices, the companies who bribe the politicians, make a test that should cost $1, $25, and that is a fact. I mean, those. First of all, your statement is correct. Your statement is correct, my friend. You, Bianchi. I remember your name now, Bianchi. Your statement is correct. There's no reason why this should cost $25, but the policies that you support is what make them $25. Bianchi, I want to stay with you because you and I always have some interesting and good conversations. I want to put you on hold for one.
Get to your next caller.
Right, and then I'm going to come back to you. So stick with me. Let's go to a caller from, 209. Come on in, 209.
Hey, Egberto, it's Sally here in the Central Valley, California.
Sally, how you doing, my friend? Come on in, Sally. How you doing, my friend?
Okay. Yeah. Well, I was really calling in about something else, but the last caller, that just, I consider myself first and foremost an environmental activist. Mm-hmm. Okay, because if we don't have a planet to live on, nothing else really matters.
You're right.
and he's trying to say about trying to stop using fossil fuels, which we don't have much time. We really don't have as much time as we thought we did to phase them out. And there are plenty of sustainable alternatives.
Right.
And the number one is hemp.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
There's practically nothing that we use fossil fuels for that we can't replace with the use of hemp, which is much more sustainable to our planet.
Right, hemp and switchgrass, and there's a whole lot of things. Here's the thing, Miss Salas, and this is where, when it comes to people like Bianchi and others, right? We have different sources of information, and you can also buy scientists to tell information and to lie, or just as conservatives can buy a scientist, progressives can buy a scientist. So what we have to do, right, and this is where with age I am getting more how should I don't like to necessarily use the word tolerant, but in order to reach Bianchi and others that I think are wrong when it comes to handling the environment, I have to see where they are, and I have to build a trust to take them somewhere, or they have to build some facts that take me elsewhere. And what I try to do, and you'll see us do it with Bianchi again as he comes back on, is I want to see how he developed his sources of information. I think empirically now, we first of all, we had the data, as he said, and he admitted the data 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, we've been discussing this. Now, we've actually seen the math work, the math of the work, but it has actually worked a bit too well. In other words, the acceleration is even more so than we thought. Now, the idea that we have
well, not only that, though, you have to remember that they knew. They knew years ago. They
Right.
knew when I was a child, which
Right.
is a long time ago, that what they were doing was detrimental to the planet.
Right.
And it was all about the money, the greed. It was let's get as much as we can now.
Right. Well,
and now we're getting to the point where we don't have the leisure of time to make changes.
Well, let me tell you what upsets me, however, what really actually upsets me when it comes to how we deal with things like the climate change, or even the price of healthcare and so forth. And the reason I brought that in is this. We, because of this economic system that we have, here's what we encourage. We encourage taking things to the breaking point, meaning we sell a lot of opioids into our system that we know is fatal, that we know people get addicted to, and then the same companies find it more efficient to just go ahead and pay off the suits for having addicted a whole lot of people, and worst case, either declare bankruptcy, or the worst of them all, come up with a drug to counter the damage that they created. That's number one. Same thing with climate change. We have the companies that produce the car. I mean, we all need our gasoline and all of that. I always tell progressives when we talk about moving from, and I'm coming back to you in a second, Bianchi, when we talk about middle fuels, right? There are a lot of, I had a group of progressives one time when I said I am willing to work with the alternative of the middle ground, where we start with natural gas, which gives off less carbon as we move. If we have a consistent pathway towards a 100% green energy, I'm very much willing to accept the middle ground as we move forward. And we have progressives would attack me. Oh no, that is going to cause them to backslide. And I understand that feeling, because it's the same feeling we have. If we don't go the other direction, it's going to give them the opportunity to backslide. So that's what I tell them. First of all, we need to go get there, because look, tomorrow if you have to go visit your family in New York, you're not going to jump on a horse or you're not going to jump on a solar sail or something like that. For now, we're going to fly. For now, we're going to take a train. Right?
Sorry,
So,
no. I'll take a train. No,
Right.
I beg to differ with you. You won't get me on a plane.
Right. Well, okay. Not with the Max 8s right now. But anyhow, but so what we have is we have to go ahead and get that transition, and I am for and doing that. However, the issues that I have is these people who created the externalities. In other words, the people that get sick from breathing oil. That big fire that we had here in Deer Park, Texas, that polluted a whole lot, that a lot of people are going to get sick, a lot of people are going to get future cancers from. By the time they get their future cancers, that company would just be a thought process. So we don't see the externalities. So they don't want Medicare for all. They don't want us to have a progressive type healthcare system, but at the same time, they want to have a system that they can do what? Throw anything up into the air or throw anything into the soil or water.
Well, now the people that have breathed in all that benzene from those fires down there in Deer Park are future big pharma customers.
Here you go.
Because they're going to be dependent on these drugs
Here you
to
go.
help them breathe and live the rest of their lives. So it's just a vicious, greedy circle.
Right. And what happens is you have a lot of good capitalists now, and hear me out here, good people, and I don't call them capitalists. So like Bianchi, I don't call Bianchi a capitalist. I call him a free enterpriser, but he wants to call himself a capitalist. But there are these good people out there that they're trying to make a profit. They treat their people well, and they, but they don't see that what we have to do is get rid of the guys that are corrosive to our economy, the ones that are causing the true wealth inequality, income disparity, etc. But let me put you on hold and get back to Bianchi since he's been on for quite a while. Bianchi, you're back. I think we handled the carbon. Is there something else I needed to say about trying to get to carbon free?
Well, no, she was erred in her statement. Henry Ford wanted to make a car which was a composite of materials, including hemp, for the body to do away with the metal that was used in the fenders in the body.
I didn't know that.
So it's not what the automobile is going to be running over. And you still have to have a majority of your fiber has to come from trees. It has to come from a carbon-based material like straw.
No, but that
you use straw when you use straw when you are using a composter.
Let me correct something there, and because first, no, it's not about correcting. It's about you're right, but okay, cutting down a tree, developing cloth or developing paper, or even burning that tree is actually sustainable. If what you're doing is growing it again, which is going to reabsorb the carbon that you put in the air. That is why creating switchgrass into alcohol, into a fuel, is green. That is green. Burning things is not on green. It's burning fossil fuel that's not green.
It's not efficient, sir.
You
cannot grow trees quicker than what you're going to use.
And exactly.
Switchgrass. You have Nubians over in southern Egypt, down around Aswan, that's using switchgrass in order to produce gasoline for their felucca boats.
Yes.
And that is not efficient.
But
anyway, I'm going to continue to listen.
No problem. Let me talk about efficiency. It is not as efficient. I shouldn't say. It is not as efficient as fossil fuel because in one particular gram of fossil fuel, there is a hell of a lot of energy. In that, Bianchi is absolutely right. However, it is not renewable. It's burnt, it's gone, which means there is an end to it. However, it as inefficient as tree growing is, the one thing we have is the abundance of different types of renewable energies that could, if we decided to put our energy into it, make a 100% net, and notice what I said, a 100% net carbon-free economy. How? We have the using dams, using air, using solar, having great batteries to store for higher for where the needs are higher. Efficiency. Right now, our use of electricity, our use of energy is extraordinarily inefficient. We lose most of it to heat. So the fact of the matter is that is definitely a possibility. I think Bianchi just wanted to listen to the show, and I had to let me go to Sally, and then if not, I'll continue what the actual topic of the show. And we're in 40 minutes already. Go ahead, Sally. Anything else you want to add before we go?
Well, the reason I called in is because of what you have behind you about fighting against progressives,
right?
The DNC, and that. This has been in my mind since I can't remember when, is why do we have two parties? Why is it Republicans and Democrats? That is the contributing factor to the problem today. In our government.
Right. For the longest time, I've been talking about not having parties and so forth. People have given me reasons to have parties. I personally don't buy the reasons for having parties, but that's what
there's no reason for having a party. None whatsoever, other than making yourself a clique and making yourself exclusive against the others around you.
Right. I think
it's not me, it's us.
Right. I think if people had to make deals among individuals, in other words, if a whole lot of counties had to get together to do X and a lot of other counties had to get together to do, when I say counties, I really mean districts, had to do Y, what we would start to get is policies that really reflect regionality. We would also start negotiating better. That is my opinion. I think that's, it'll be nasty. It'll be, you'll have all kind of pseudo parties being formed for different particular issues. But what you get is you won't get that standard where you have everything that the Democratic Party stands for X, Y, Z. Because, I could tell you a whole lot of things that, a lot of people in the Democratic Party, as we know right now, don't want Medicare for all. And I know a lot of people in the Republican Party who want Medicare for all, but they can't say it because they've told me. People up in the party here in Texas want Medicare for all, but they can't say it.
Let me take a little bit farther than that because, I'm in California and I've registered as independent for years because I won't, obviously, I don't want guilt by association with either party.
Right.
But and in the 2016 primaries, they sent me a card that I had to either declare one or the other, or I couldn't vote.
And that is where they have the monopoly. That is where they have the monopoly, and that is how they get you. And so look, right now the way I decided is I became a part of the party that is the most progressive at this particular time. Now, yesterday I played a video that really it really upset me because. You know what? I want to show you what's wrong. Let me see if this is a video. No, that's not the video here. I want to play you a video. I think I played it yesterday. Let's see if I can find it. And the reason why is it shows you some of the problems that we are going to run into. And especially, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to do the show based on the title that I'm talking about. How do we win in 2020, because I've already started to see the things that will cause us to lose. I am already seeing that. Let me go ahead and see if I can cue this thing up. I'm queuing it up as we speak because this is what I played yesterday. Let's see. I think that's it.
Some are talking about Medicare for all. Would you support that approach?
I don't support that approach. If what you're talking about is the legislation that Bernie Sanders has in the Senate, that would take insurance away from 180 million people who get it through their employer, 80% of whom like it. It would take insurance away from every labor union in America that's negotiated a health care plan, and it would cost $30 trillion. I have a bill with Tim Kaine called Medicare X that would create a true public option for the American people. It actually starts in rural areas because those are places that have the least competition in insurance, and and then over 3 years it migrates everywhere. And I think we've wanted a public option, or I have, since the Affordable Care Act was passed. This gives the American people a choice. It doesn't force them into a plan. It gives them an option, and it creates competition for private insurance, starting in rural areas, as I said. I think that's much closer to where the American people are than wanting to have the government take over the entire healthcare system.
Okay.
Some are talking about.
I don't know where that came from. It seems like we had some feedback there for a while.
Well, I'm sorry because you put the video up and I didn't have volume because I had myself muted online, and so I.
Then you put it on. So
tried to hear the video.
So you gave us that feedback.
Myself online.
You gave us that feedback.
I didn't mean to do that. Sorry.
That's all right, Sally. But what the essence there that got to me is this. It is people misunderstood what I said. They said, "Oh, you can't." I said progressives need to support Medicare for all, and that is what we should be doing. Now, it is not telling Democrats that wholeheartedly just don't want Medicare for all, not to not support it. But here's the issue with that particular statement that Michael Bennet said, and it is dangerous. Michael Bennet repeated every single talking point that the right wing used, and he did it in such a manner, and I did an experiment with it. I cut his words out, and I'm just not going to put I won't put that commercial up, put the commercial up for anybody to see, but it's an easy commercial to make in 30 seconds of Michael Bennet calling Medicare for all a government takeover that will cause 185 million people to lose their coverage, and also cause those people who love their insurance to lose it, from the mouth of a Democrat who is claiming to run for the presidency of the United States. And that is a detriment like one cannot imagine. And once he did that, in my opinion, he disqualified himself from being a candidate for president of the United States. That one interview that he gave there is already in the books for Republicans. I can guarantee you, I understand how they operate. So going forward, we have a Democrat, and we are talking about a progressive Democrat here. We have a progressive Democrat that is on air saying Medicare for all is government takeover of health care. And if you don't know where that came from, I can guarantee you he was paid. And I don't mean, give you $1.
Yeah,
he was paid. He was like
paid propaganda.
Right. He knows that by saying that.
Fear in the American public.
Exactly. Let me take another call, Sally, and put you on hold and go with. Come on in. Skype call. Come on in.
Yes, my dear friend.
Hey, my friend from Singapore. Come on in.
How are you, sir?
I am doing fine. How are you doing, sir?
Okay. Thank you very much. Mike from Singapore. Every time we want to go for Medicare for all, everybody say how we are going to go pay for it.
Don't get me started.
And, that is easy as 1, 2, 3. First you cut your military budget that is 60% of a nation's taxes and everything that they collect.
Right.
And then it goes to military. Well, F-35, which has not suffered problem, as you know, also it crashes most of the time. So now, this one, it costs over what? $40 million, $50 million. Mm-hmm. But, easily they can say, okay, we don't need 20 F-35 anymore.
But
that will pay automatically for the Medicare for all. And when you say Medicare for all, they call it socialist, commie, and whatever they want to label you, because they have nothing to say.
Right.
Whenever people have nothing to say, then they accuse you of being communist, socialist, or etc.
But let me tell
that's
you,
not right.
let me tell you something that I did a show on this. I had Arliss Bunny, and there's an economist I'm trying to get on air as well. Her name is Stephanie Kennel, and I will have her on air. She goes around preaching something known as MMT, modern monetary theory. A lot of capitalists like to malign what it really is saying, but at the same time, when they are in trouble, that is what they use to get their books back in the black. I mean, when you talk about quantitative easing, when you talk about freeing monies for the banks to reconstitute the banks, to make them solvent, it is basically MMT that they're using, modern monetary policy. That they're using to reflate these particular banks. So she gives a story and she gave a speech, and that's one of the reasons I wanted her on, because she explains it much more elegantly than I possibly could. What she said was as simple. Right now, as it turns out, we determine how much money we are going to tax, how much money we have, and then based on that, we decide to make a budget that's supposed to fit into that, meaning how much we're going to tax, how much deficit we are going to have, and we go ahead and do that. She said that's not the way to create a budget that serves the people. You first decide what are the things that you want. You don't even talk about priorities necessarily. What are the things that you want? What does society need to be a good society? And then you spend the money to do it. Because we are a sovereign country who has sovereign money. In other words, the money is just worth what we tell it is worth. We have the ability to print the money to solve our problems. And people say, oh, well, that's runaway inflation, Germany and Venezuela. It's not true, because we have proven it not to be true. Even people have said it before, but we have proven it not to be true. And there's something that I always said: if there are potholes needed to be filled, and there are jobs there are people who needs jobs, if you cannot get the potholes fixed by the people who have jobs because of your monetary system or your economic system, then you have a failed economic system. What she is saying is exactly what we know has happened. We have been having some budget deficits like they are unheard of. And to date, we do not have inflation. And the reason we don't have inflation is that our productivity is so good. We have goods chasing money and not money chasing goods. The only time we will get hyperinflation is if at a time when we cannot produce enough for the dollars we're putting into the system. And at that point, that is when we remove dollars through taxation, we remove dollars through different methods. And that is what modern monetary policy does. We should be spending ourselves into Medicare for all. We should be spending ourselves into all these issues. But the reason the corporatocracy don't want that is it gives people freedom. And we enslave people by making them dependent on the current economic system. And you say?
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. I agree with you 100%. And is she from Venezuela? Because you wrote on your description that you are talking to a
guy from Venezuela.
Lady
yes.
that...
Yes.
Is she from Venezuela?
Yeah, I was speaking to her. Go ahead.
Can I maybe talk to her, ask her a few questions, please?
Okay. No, actually, this is not the woman that's on. Sally Salas is not from Venezuela.
Okay.
Yeah, Sally is right here from the United States. No, I had an interview with a person from Venezuela yesterday, and ironically, this person is a friend of Guaido, the new president of Venezuela. And so we had a very long talk yesterday at Starbucks. He's been wanting to meet me for quite some time, and we finally met at Starbucks yesterday. And after speaking to him, I decided to bring him to the studio, and we did an interview that I'm going to cut up. And I told him I want to do it. You know, I'll be doing it a very honest cut on that, and I'll be presenting it to our audience next week. But the idea is. The subject of the show, I'm not going to get to the blog of the week because it was, if I have people to talk to and we have issues to discuss, I'll take that over everything whatever I prepared anytime. Because like I said, the audience is more important than anything that I come up with. But here's what I want to say is what he had to say and this part is important, is that, hey, I'm going to tell you guys something. First of all, his intent was to get progressives to not continue to look at Chavismo as something positive. And he had some examples of issues that occurred that I told him I would explore. I told him I know what Chavismo has done thus far. I need to find out what ills you're talking about that has occurred for me to change. But his goal is really to change progressives into supporting Guaido or supporting the ouster of Nicolás Maduro. That said, what he said was interesting. On a friendly basis, he said, I'm going to tell you something about progressives. I just don't understand you guys. Why are you guys even going to use the word socialism, which several people always say? And like I've told him, and I replied, and it's something that I was going to talk about today, is we don't have to use the word socialism. We just have to tell people what we're going to do for them. The interesting thing about it is what the people say they want. If you take all the polls, what they want is what we have already defined as democratic socialism. So we don't even need to use the words. We just need to go out there and give people what they want. That's
exactly. All. But before I make a comment on your comment, last 7 days we have problem with Blog Talk Radio. We cannot hear you live. But
really?
After show is archived, we were able to listen everything. But sometimes I call in, but I just drop myself because I know maybe you see me or you don't see me.
I didn't.
I don't know.
I haven't. So let me ask you. But we're working fine now, right? I know there are a few days ago we've had time connecting. So I mean they must have had some electronic some connectivity problems a few days ago. So I don't know. I didn't know about that. But I mean you can always drop me a line inside of Facebook if you're there and tell me what's going on. So that would be the way to do it. But anyway, folks, I need to go ahead. Go ahead, sir, real quick.
Go ahead.
Go ahead because we have to close the show.
Yeah, I say hi to Sally as well too, and absolutely you're right. And we need Medicare for all. We need free education for all, and on top of it, when the robots are changing our workplace, we need also to have unconditionally universal income for everyone. Andrew Yang say $1,000. I think $1,000 is not enough. Minimum $15,000 to $2,000 for everyone, a citizen of the United States, until age of 70 years.
Thank you so kindly. I gotta go, Michael. I gotta go.
Sure.
Let me give Sally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so kindly for calling in, Sally. Let me give you a 30 seconds or so to comment if you have a comment.
Okay, just a quick comment is that in California we have expanded Medicaid. If it wasn't so, I'd probably be dead. We can save that for another day. But I enjoy your show. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you so kindly for your support.
Keep people informed.
Look, I appreciate
and I come to you for education on how I can be more proactive in turning I wouldn't say turning people's minds, but awakening people to what's really going on in our country.
Sally, thank you so kindly. We all have to do this together. We are all informed by each other, and I really, really mean that. When I speak to people, no matter their ideology, and this is a learned behavior on my part, I honestly try to go deeper into what they're thinking to understand where it's coming from, because that is the way that I realize I've been able to reach people. First, listening, understanding why they're coming from, forgetting about hating them for what they are, what they look. What they think or whatever. That's why the other day I did a show where I said, you know what? I have a whole lot of those right-wing racists that are my friends, and we can sit down and break bread, because slowly but surely, what starts to happen is they start to realize, oh my God, wow, and I see that happen firsthand. Somebody has to start it. We don't want that civil war. Somebody has to start it. Somebody has to be the one willing to shut up and listen to the other person first. somebody, and I tell people all of the time, hey, I'll be that somebody, but I'm still out there making sure, however, all the time with all these people that I'm with, to lay that progressive message, many times catering it to their own lives that I've learned because of what they've told me. And you'd be surprised. I mean, when people start to get trust in you and they start to tell you their life stories, it doesn't matter if they're right, left, or whatever. And then what that gives you the ability to is cater your message to them. Because that is how they beat us. That is how they beat us. They tell these people how to think. We listen to what these people need and cater the message. And it's not just a message, it's what we want to do. That's right. Cater it to them. And if we can get a lot of people doing that, and I'm talking about having a whole lot of these type of things going on, then we can make the change. I'm going to go a minute over because I need to do my pitch one more time. Folks, this is a progressive show. I really do need your support. Please go to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is patreon.com/politicsdoneright. I mean, you can it as little as just giving Egberto, or it should really be Politics Done Right, a cup of coffee a month or something like that. The other thing is, if you want to just be a contributor, please also feel free to go to politicsdoneright.com and click the donate button. Actually, that donate button, I think, gets you to both the subscription and to the PayPal. Both. I think that one button takes you to gives you a choice. Now, what do you get from us? First of all, you know what you're going to get. You get somebody that works his ass off to try to promote the progressive values, inform on the progressive values. There's no doubt about that. The hours that spent to make sure and do that. Now, but as a gimmick, this is a gimmick. I'm putting all of my books online, okay, on my website. All the books are going online. As I write them, they go online. This How to Make America Utopia, 2 chapters are done. It's online. Those of you who are subscribers, get to it. This other book that I have called As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. That book has been out for a few years. That book is online. I can tell you it is still very relevant. In fact, because of Trump, it has become more relevant than it was before Trump. And that is the truth. If you take a look at the patent system, regulations, and all that kind of stuff, in an easy-to-understand way, in an easy-to-understand manner. So you subscribe, you get access to that as well. Same with Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. Hey, this dude used to be big in several cycles. You know, I think I finally got it licked. And I explained in the book how I did it and how I'm maintaining it, and also with the notion that we're all fallible. But it's a human book. It's a short book. It's a human book that says how this supposedly tough activist had a weight problem and pretty much knocked it out for the last time over the last several years. And you know, so I put it in the book called Lose Weight and Be Fit Now, Say No to Snake Oil Weight Loss Program. So these are gimmicks to ask you to support us either by purchasing the book or by subscribing to us and having access to everything that we write. So please go to patreon.com, patreon.com/politicsdoneright, or go to politicsdoneright.com and support what we have to do. And there are a lot of other rags that are worthy of support, from Common Dreams to dailycoast.com to opednews.com to democraticulderground.com. If you take a look at all these websites, they all have this stuff underneath it that say they're throttling us. They're denying us advertising revenue. I can tell you that there was a time when we never came, absent last 2 years, we never had a subscription model. And why didn't we have one? Because our ads could take care of business. That's gone. That is gone. You can throw as much ad as you want to the stuff. You're going to get pennies now. So it's not self-supporting, and it's by design. And when I say by design, I'm not talking about some sort of a conspiracy kind of a thing. It is just that the big guys get the ads that matters, and the little websites like Common Dreams or Alternate or all these others, they get what's left over. And that's why you see all of them have that message underneath the thing, and that is, please support independent progressive media. We honestly do need your support. Nobody's getting rich off of your dime. In fact, yours truly has gotten pretty darn poor on his retirement dime that's just about gone. So please support Politics Done Right. Patreon.com/Politics Done Right. This is a labor not of love. It's a labor of love, necessity, and how the hell we make sure and keep this country what it was when I moved from Panama to this country, what it isn't anymore. Those of us who saw this place from the outside know why we got here, know why we came here. We know what this place was. So unlike what Trump would tell you about immigrants, that's not the case. We come here because of the illusion that we had in all these other places that we lived. An illusion that was mostly true for that immigrant that came over here and was able to go ahead and attain something because the type of economy had not yet consumed the ability to succeed. Right now, much of the ability to succeed is consumed. If that weren't the case, you would not have 80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. We have to make a change, and we can't sit down and twiddle our fingers. We can't sit down and think that it's going to happen automatically. We have to understand that these things they only happen. They only, and I mean this, they only happen if we take control, if we take charge. The people's, I'm going a little bit long because I really want to get this out. People's expectations, my brothers and my sisters, right? Their expectations, the expectation of the plutocracy is that you are going to be quiet, is that you are going to just acquiesce to who they allow you to be. The plutocracy is going to choose those they think they need, and they have the choices from everybody. Oh, you have a whole lot of people that go out there thinking they're great. I'm talking about folks who work in the corporation and are holding water for the corporation. They think, we are great. I am so good. No, there are a lot of great people out there. A lot of you are listening right now. They are the chosen. And most people who make it, it's not that there are a lot of others who couldn't have. It's just that they're the chosen. Do we really want a system where only the chosen make it? Or that we really have a meritocracy? That we really have something where everybody who has an aptitude can succeed and live with that aptitude. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this show. It goes this way. I am what? Out!
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.